Hello and welcome. I'm Arjun Vishwanathan, Chief Knowledge Officer at StrategINK, and I extend a very, very warm welcome to each of you in the audience to Vision 2022, the Future of Next, an event that promises to unveil the opportunities that lie ahead with the enablement of technology. I'm here today with an eminent person from industry who's helped co-author the Vision 2022, the Future of Next report. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce Nikita Tandon, eminent author and technology analyst and the co-author of the Vision 2022 report. Nikita, good morning and welcome.
Thank you so much, Arjun.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen in the audience, without further ado, let me quickly take you to what the Vision 2022 Future of Next report entails. It is in essence a study of Indian industry's readiness and ability to adopt, transform and innovate in 2022 and beyond in such measure that it affects in a positive manner superior and incremental business outcomes, the concept of hyper-competitiveness, the concepts of enterprise resilience, and last but not the least, acceleration of value. The key questions that we attempted, and before I get into this interesting dialogue with Nikita, some of the key questions that industry asked us to unveil and unlock information and insights on were to do around which technologies would orchestrate transformational change in 2022 and beyond, and therefore the approaches that should be taken for an enterprise embedding of digital native thought, such as is important in a digitally connected industry as we live in today. There's also immediate requirements for sector-wise sentiments around the adoption of technology and the related use cases. And equally, of course, the sector-wise expected spends and budgetary allocations towards specific technologies that would help IT leaders and business leaders accelerate value. And to sum it up all together, in a sense, the Vision 2022, the Future of Next report is an amalgamation of industry sentiments and directional predictions on the future of technology and its convergence with business strategy. And of course, as the title aptly suggests, this report seeks to unlock value and help organizational and IT leaders in understanding what's in store ahead. And without further ado, to discuss some of the brief insights from the report, such that were as interesting as and enjoyable that we found in asking and understanding those insights as we will attempt to present to you, I will bring in Nikita and welcome again. Nikita, one of the foundational aspects that we did intend to uncover in all of this, in this study, was what it would take to embed innovation in the very fabric of an organization's ability to thrive, become hyper-competitive, therefore accelerate value. Why don't you walk our audience through the broad insights?
Well, Arjun, this has definitely been one of the most interesting insights that we've been able to generate with the report. And as it's shown on the screen, there are 4 major pillars which have become, which will eventually become the foundation of innovation for any organization. The first pillar largely revolves around leadership and vision. There are majorly 2 aspects to this. One, there needs to be an explicit exhibition of leadership commitment. That is, the leadership needs to be the crusader of innovation in the organization. And secondly, all the key stakeholders need to come together to have a coherent vision of what innovation seeks to achieve, as well as, that will become the vision for the entire organization. The second pillar talks about how innovation, or how a culture of innovation needs to be embedded in the very fabric of the organization. This suggests that everybody at all levels of the organization should be encouraged to experiment with and take calculated risks to change, adapt, and eventually come up with new ways to drive and create value. The third major pillar talks about the need for digital skills. Well, organizations, as our respondents suggested, need to identify and adopt the right digital skills to ensure that everybody in the organization becomes an active participant and is not simply a passive recipient of the entire process of business innovation. And finally, the fourth major pillar that we've uncovered is the adoption of technology. In the recent years, we've all seen that innovation has been co-evolving with technology infusion. However, organizations need to be cognizant of the fact that simply adopting technology for the sake of adoption is not enough. They need to follow a very strategic and judicious approach to technology adoption, which ultimately aligns well with their business as well as innovation
I
mission.
have a question for you there, which is essentially coming out of your own articulation, your narrative, which is as forceful and supreme as it were. Nikita, in all of this, do you think that the culture, leadership, digital skills, as well as technology and converging together would be, in a manner of speaking, helped by the geographical distribution of the workforce today as we see it?
Essentially, in some way, yes, because since the like today there is with the hybrid workforce, etc. Since everybody is geographically dispersed, it will definitely have an impact on the entire innovation agenda for an
It's very interesting. That's very, very interesting. No, true indeed. And I couldn't agree with you more because I think increasingly, as we're speaking to more and more CIOs and IT leaders, innovation seems to be one of the top priorities on the agenda, especially for an organization's ability to bear upon and have its product differentiation and its ability to therefore be competitive, bear upon the outcomes that it sees in industry. So I couldn't agree with you more. Uh, Sorry, you had something to say. Please go ahead.
So, Arjun, like I mentioned about technology adoption being one of the core pillars, I wanted to understand from you what would be the key technologies that organizations will focus on to power their entire innovation agenda.
No, that's actually a fascinating question. And ladies and gentlemen in the audience, that's one of the questions that we brought out in very, very significant measure in our entire study of Indian industry. And like it says, we went to 326 diverse and independent organizations spread across sectors to understand what it was in terms of technology adoption that would lead for organizations to actually move from being mere survivors to thrivers. And perhaps it may not come as any major surprise to most of you, and as well as you, Nikita, as you were part of the study, is that the ability to for multi-cloud orchestration coupled with the overall workload transformation that we are seeing in significant measure within industry is going to be one of those technologies or the adoption or the practice that's going to help organizations drive hyper competitiveness. At second place, no surprise, once again, the whole concept of artificial intelligence and machine learning as a service, simply because of the volumes of data that we are creating today, that is leading enterprises as well as business leaders to move data from being a mere digital asset to becoming a strategic business asset. The third one, as we are seeing across a range of industries from manufacturing to retail to healthcare, to a large degree, even the financial sector, is the whole concept of automation and the prevalence of tools and technologies that would help increase productivity, therefore freeing up space to do even more innovative as well as inventive things. With the influx of sensors and connected devices, no surprise once again that edge computing and its ability to deliver data at source and insights at source is going to be one of those technology trends that's going to be leveraged in a fair measure. The last but not the least, perhaps in my view, which came as a slight surprise, and perhaps maybe more towards supply chain logistics and the manufacturing sector, was the concept of augmented and virtual reality, beg your pardon, with the ability, perhaps, in a geographically dispersed workspace of sorts, uh, the whole concept of augmented and virtual reality perhaps to drive lots of trainings which require extensive parts specifications and so on and so forth in the manufacturing, the energy, the mining areas. Those areas is perhaps how I see the concept of AR and virtual reality being used to some modicum. So in a broad sense of the word, these five technologies, in our view, are going to play very, very pivotal and vector roles in helping industry accelerate its whole journey to value acceleration. As fascinating, Nikita, as this is getting, I do have a view on the clock, and we've got a very, very amazingly packed day ahead. In in conclusion, I must ask you this one particular question, is that while we've spoken so much about technology, there's one overarching technology or an ecosystem that cannot be underscored enough in its importance and priority, which is the whole concept of cyber resilience. And in that sense, Nikita, my question to you is, what do you think are going to be the key drivers as Indian industry feels for organizations to put together a business resiliency, a robust, comprehensive business resiliency plan?
Well, Arjun, we have seen in the past 2 years that organizations which have been resilient are the ones which have been able to survive and eventually thrive with the uncertainty and ambiguity that has been there for the past 2 years. Based on our study, we've been able to identify that there are four major drivers which will eventually, or which are actually already pushing organizations to focus a lot and focus a lot on the idea of cyber resilience and put their efforts there. So first has been the rise of remote work.
Indeed.
Most of us have been working remotely for the past 2 years, and as the situation is, we are likely to continue with it. And even if physical work starts coming up, we are going to be focusing on a hybrid model.
Indeed.
But with remote work, there are a series of challenges with endpoint security, email compromises, vulnerabilities of home and public networks. Secondly, as you mentioned in the previous section as well about key technologies, there has been a rapid adoption in the cloud infrastructure, which again comes with its own apprehensions around security-related paradigms. Third, we have seen in the last almost about 15 to 18 months that global breaches has increased considerably, not only in the volume, but also in the nature, the impact that they're creating.
The sophistication also.
Exactly.
Equally,
Yeah.
there's sophistication.
Exactly. And finally, as data continues to be a critical business asset, the vulnerability around and the vulnerability of attacks and threats around it are likely to increase.
No, I couldn't agree with you more, Nikita. And clearly, I think what stands out as one of the emerging trends, which is fairly overarching in its nature, is that, folks, the world as we know it has changed and is changing. And it is therefore incumbent on each of us and each of you as IT and business leaders to not just navigate this journey in a bold and resolute manner, but to also address the challenges that will come in plentiful measure, but equally seize the opportunities that industry and life will throw at us. And with that, that's pretty much what we have now. Please do visit CXO Digital Pulse, StrategINK's flagship content portal for knowledge, insights, data, and so much more. You can download the report on CXO Digital Pulse. There you have the website link. Please do feel free to download the report. It comes at no cost. And from both Nikita and I here, a very warm welcome once again. And we urge you to enjoy the fascinating set of conversations, dialogues, and chats that we put together over the next 2 days. That's pretty much from us here. Nikita, thank you for joining us and taking time out.
Thank you so much, Arjun. It was a pleasure being here.
Absolutely. Stay tuned. Stay safe. God bless. Stay tuned with us. We'll be back with the ensuing segments in just a second.